very good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine. This is the Tuesday edition, of course, today being 19th day of September 2023. Gradually, we are, getting closer to welcoming the month Nigeria is going to celebrate its independence. My name is Francis Oyemaidet, and I am with...
You're with Davina Praise Oman. Good morning, Francis.
Good morning, Davina. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
Trying to figure out how I feel this morning. I woke up with a little bit of cold because of the showers in the night. I think I forgot myself midway down the way. But on the whole, I think I'm okay, and I'm ready to, set up a new goals for Tuesday and get to take them up. They call it Work Tuesday. I wonder why they call it Work Tuesday and they don't call it Work Monday.
Well, because I feel like the name Monday is scary on its own. So they just leave it to be Monday.
Well, I think that could suffice. But of course, today on Rise and Shine, as always, we will be talking Nigeria, taking you around all the latest happenings and development. And on that note, we're starting with flash news. Our very first story this morning is that the governor of Akwa Ibom State, His Excellency Governor Pastor Umobasi Eno, and his deputy Ekone Yanyi, have congratulated John Obot for the milestone achievement of reading aloud for 150 hours. Now, you would recall that John Obot had actually set out to read for 145 hours, and as that yesterday he was able to get past the target of 145 up until 150 hours.
That's incredible. And I like the fact that they have all learned, to add extra hours. I feel like even the period where we had so many people trying to do one athon or the other, they learned to add more hours, especially because of what we saw happen to Hilda Bassi after, she set a goal. She got there and then exceeded the hours, because we recall that after Guinness World Records, of course, calculated all of the hours, they took out a bunch of time from her time that now gave her a shorter shorter time than she had intended to. So I like the fact that he extended it, so that no matter what happens, he will still be sure to break that record. Congratulations to John Obot.
Well, congratulations to John Obot. Just taking a cue from what Governor Pastor Humoina said. He said in the message congratulating the release on behalf of his released by his chief press secretary, Ekerete Udo, Governor Humoina said, "This is what we all can do in our various fields with the right discipline, mindset, determination, and focus. This is what the Akwa Ibom spirit represents: resilience, grit, determination, can-do, bravado, and passion to excel. Your success has ignited our reading culture, and I look forward to celebrating you and other heroes and heroines during our forthcoming 36th state anniversary. Congratulations again, great son of Akwa Ibom State." That's the message from His Excellency Governor Pastor Umoino. And you needed to have seen the atmosphere, yesterday at the countdown. At exactly 10 p.m. was when, John was able to finally say, "I have done enough. Let's put a wrap on this."
Yeah, I like the fact that he saw this through till the end. I remember that yesterday we spoke about the fact that after successfully completing 50 hours, he had a problem with power outage, and he had to go through from the beginning. That is just a test, and truly the governor's words here are on point, because that was simply a show of resilience and determination. And we're so happy to see that he has been successfully able to complete his mission, and we hope that from here on out it means open doors, ambassadorial deals, and all of those great things for Mr. John Obot.
We saw what happened to Hilda Bassi.
Yes.
I mean, shortly after the Kukaton different deals, endorsements, she instantly, even while the Kukaton was ongoing, became a celebrity. And the peculiarity of Hilda's story is one that, should also inspire, because she had said she attempted going to the Big Brother Niger house just to, showcase herself and be able to grace the spotlight. But it didn't happen. I mean, some of us have auditioned for Big Brother Niger sometimes, and it didn't favor us. But that doesn't mean you should stop. Yeah, it doesn't mean you should stop, because you never can tell when it's going to be your turn. I know that some of the people who have gone ahead to be in the Big Brother Niger's house would always come out to say, or some have come out to say they have tried like 2-3 times. At the fourth attempt, they actually got, picked into the house. So congratulations to John Obod, and we do hope that the governor in Akwa Ibom State, indeed Nigeria, will celebrate you and give you your due for the great feat that you've been able to achieve. And of course, you've been a source of inspiration, changing our reading culture. But moving away from that, delegations of the European Union, Economic Community of West African States, and the International Police yesterday met with the Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaddam, over the implementation of the West African Police Information System. The WAPIS is targeted to enhance police capacity to collect, store, analyze, and share crucial law enforcement data across borders. Of course, according to the meeting at the Secretariat of the Ministry of Police Affairs in Abuja, the minister noted that WAPIS presents the Nigeria Police Force and Nigeria as a country with a unique opportunity to strengthen law enforcement efforts and foster collaboration among West African countries.
And Gagam said that it is with immense pleasure and honor that he welcomes the distinguished delegation composed of representatives from the ECOWAS to the European Union and Interpol. Now, this visit marks a significant milestone in our journey towards the implementation of the West African Police Information System here in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your presence here today in the statement is a testament to the importance and the urgency that we will attach to enhancing regional security cooperation. Now, the implementation of the WAPIS holds immense significance for the Nigeria police and our great nation as a whole, as we stand at the forefront of addressing the complex challenges and issues of transnational crime and terrorism. The need for efficient and reliable information sharing mechanisms cannot be overstated. Now, the WAPIS presents us with a unique opportunity to strengthen our law enforcement efforts and collaboration among West African countries.
Well, of course, this is an interesting treat. As far as data is concerned, experts, data analysts will always say Nigerians are way behind. I mean, we don't even know exactly how many people are in Nigeria, because as at the last time we conducted census in 2006, the figures between then and now must have been something that we cannot just sit by and guess. Hence, the census that was planned during the concluding months of the outgone president Muhammadu Buhari, which of course Nigerians are expecting that, the Tinubu administration will be able to get that going as soon as possible, so Nigerians across the respective states can know exactly how many people are in the country, so we can plan adequately. So as far as policing is concerned, I think literally across social media platforms, Nigerians are always canvassing for interagency collaborations where you have a central data system where all of the government agencies can just, click in and find informations about an individual or criminal records and things associated with, security information. Now, having that cuts across ECOWAS countries is one significant move that can, transform the narrative of how crime is being solved in Nigeria, of how policing is being done, not just within Nigeria, but also within the ECOWAS member state.
True. That's very true. I agree. I feel like you have said, it is important for us to first know the number of people that we are dealing with in the nation, to know how equipped our security measures and our security organizations, especially the Nigerian police force, would have to operate. You have to know the people you're dealing with in order to know how to operate. And of course, this comes on a gold platter. It is necessary right now because, like you said, the Nigerian police force, as we have seen, deserves a little push, needs some partnerships in order to be able to carry out all of their necessities and in order to keep us safe. Because when we see the circumstances surrounding some situations and we check in other countries, we know that there's going to be immediate response, but we know that for our system we have to give them time. And I feel like it is necessary for these collaborations and partnerships to happen so that our safety shall be ensured.
Well, of course, that's the expectations of Nigeria. In Senate climes, once you call 911, the next thing is the police are on your door. Exactly. But in Nigeria, God help you, after calling the Nigerian police force, many Nigerians will tell you, please.
I hope they even take your call the first time. call.
Yeah, so many Nigerians will tell you, I've called the police, they said they are coming. It took them 48 hours to come after the armed robbers must have done their biddings and left us. And then they are coming to, begin to ask questions. How many were the armed robbers? What kind of guns?
No,
So,
I saw a particular story on social media one time where this person, I don't know if that was a true story, but this person said they reached out to the police for this particular situation of being robbed, and when the police finally got there, they were asking these kind of questions. And when the police was asked, why are you getting here at this time, he said it was because they didn't have fuel, so they had to get fuel along the road. And I'm just like, are you an emergency response team?
well, this is Nigeria. Nigeria happens to, practically everyone. Nigeria happens to the agencies of government. I mean, when you look at the Nigerian police force, some of the issues that have been raised over time has been logistical problems. I know in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, you would always hear the police PPRO say, yes, we know the government is doing its part, they're doing their best. Akwa Ibom State government is supporting the best they can, but as far as logistics is concerned, we do not have enough, vehicles to run around. And you look at these, it goes back to the conversation about proper funding of the Nigerian police force and security agencies, because the vehicles are what will be needed, to gain access into locations. But then you also talk about interior communities where vehicles cannot enter, for instance.
Sure.
There should be provisions for bikes and other ways of transportation that will allow for the Nigerian police to gain access to these communities. But on the whole, just like we've seen the minister talking about, he said the implementation of the WAPIs will enhance the capacity of the Nigerian police force to collect, store, and analyze, and of course share crucial law enforcement data. But one thing that appeals to me about his word is that this will enable the Nigerian police to tackle the menace of organized crime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and terrorism more effectively. And it will also empower the law enforcement agencies with the necessary tools to identify and apprehend criminals who operate across national boundaries, ensuring that they face the full force of justice. Now, that is something that Nigerians can't literally wait to see happening, because as far as Nigeria is concerned, we are bordered with different countries, Cameroon, Niger, and other countries around. And there have always been this conversation that, particularly within the northern part of the country, that most of the, terrorists, most of the bandits, most of the people who are terrorizing Nigeria at this point are not necessarily Nigerians, but people from other neighboring countries. Of course, because of the intermingling, the tribal connectivity between Nigeria and neighboring countries. Somebody from Niger can come in and he speaks Hausa. Without a passport, you can't tell whether the person is from Nigeria or is from Niger Republic or from another country just bordering with Nigeria. So these are things that would significantly help. But then Nigerians would always say, we have seen successive administration. We've seen different ministers, speaking talking tough, rolling out very lofty ideals, very lofty legislations, forming, very strong collaborations. But when it comes to the implementation, we are always taking the back seat. And without proper implementation, issues like this will still be things that we'll come back to talk about. So at this point, beyond ministers' comment and the collaborations that's being done, while we commend ECOWAS for the move to ensure there is a system in place to allow member countries gain access to security information and other data to help fight crime, it is very important that we prioritize actually implementing these to the later.
Sure, absolutely.
Of course, that will call for investment. But then, while talking about security, which of course will be greatly needed for the advancement of Nigeria, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu's focus has been on, changing the narrative of the Nigerian system, bringing about infrastructural development, bringing about legislations that will transform the different subsectors. Recall just a few weeks back, we had an announcement in terms of the medical sector budgetary allocation being increased. We see that the federal government has said it had developed a national policy and implementation strategy on patient safety and healthcare quality to improve the safety of medical procedures and enhance the quality of healthcare delivery in Nigeria. Of course, this is coming from the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Health, Kacholum Daju, who made this known at a press briefing in commemoration of the World Patient Safety Day. He said the policy aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Now, for the longest time, there've always been this conflict in hospitals across board between patients' relative, and medical, practitioners, doctors, nurses, because of, some discomfort that these people see their loved ones who are not, able to take care of themselves at the moment going through. And part of the conversations Nigerians have had is that we do not have piece of legislations, very strong laws, rolling out penalties that can be given. For instance, you take your loved one who is ill to a hospital, and because of the negligence on the part of, the medical practitioners, you get to lose that person. The laws that entitle or should empower the patient's relative to actually seek justice is very weak in Nigeria. So policies like this, if truly implemented, will not only transform the way medical practitioners look at their patients, but will also create a new atmosphere where quality service is delivered across board.
Sure, I have to agree with you because, like you said, sometimes we discover some health workers who are negligent of their responsibilities, knowing that if anything happens, there really isn't much that will be done to them or that can be done to them. So I feel like if laws and regulations like this are set in place, then we would all have a better attitude to work, especially health workers who are sometimes portraying an act of negligence. It would show, there would be this sense of, I wouldn't say fear, but there would be this sense of responsibility, knowing that you have to do your best, because if anything goes wrong, there's an investigation, and if you are caught, there is a punishment thereof. So I have to appreciate the federal government and of course our president Bola Ahmed Tinubu for this particular one, and we hope that it actually comes to fruition at the end of the day.
Of course, the hope is always about coming to fruition. Yes, Nigerians say literally across the country there are hundreds of laws taking care of different issues, different challenges, empowering Nigerians to take different actions. But the problem will always come down to implementation.
Sure.
The problem also will come down to how many Nigerians do actually know that these laws are in existence. So when Nigerians don't know that there is a certain law that provides for their rights and privileges within a certain sector, the people who are the minders of the system have the tendency to override these laws, or the tendency to violate these laws, abuse Nigerians, and still go scot-free because people do not know. But when you know, then you'll be able to ask for your right. And this goes back to the issue of creating awareness. I think recently also, the 10th National Assembly, the House of Rep, we saw one of the representatives moving for a motion, I think Barrister Patrick Umar, representing Akwa Ibom, Ikodopenika, also moving a motion for us to have a comprehensive publication that contains all of the laws of Nigeria. And then as the law are made on a daily basis, this comprehensive database gets updated, so Nigerians can have a point where they go to. They know that this platform, this portal, this website is meant strictly for all the laws in Nigeria. So if you want to go and find out laws about criminal activities, laws about how to go about seeking your rights when your rights are being infringed upon, consumer protection, all of those laws. So you literally just see at a click, Nigerians can access information about the different laws that have been made in Nigeria, and then know how to go about handling their activities. Of course, one would say most times you find out that even the lawyers themselves, you find lawyers in the law code acting as if they don't know, or they are not aware of certain laws that are in existence.
True.
And this comes down to the fact that on a daily basis, new laws are being made, old laws are being rebranded, as the case may be. And then we're not having the commensurate level of awareness to let Nigerians know, oh, this law has been repealed, a new one has been enacted, there is an upgrade in this particular law. There has been some changes in the provisions. These ones have been struck off. These other provisions have been added. So it's a time for us to critically look at all of those things. And for this particular policy, I can bet you Nigerians would say, yes, it's coming. But how much awareness are we going to have from the federal government? How much awareness are we going to have on the part of the relevant government agencies to ensure that Nigerians know this is the law in place, and this law mandates or gives you the power as a patient to actually get XYZ. And in the event that you don't get this, these are the avenues available for you to seek redress from the medical facility.
True. It's very essential. I have to agree with you. Well, the World Patient Safety Day is observed on September 17th every year. This year's theme is engaging patients for patient safety. In recognition of the crucial role patients, families, and caregivers play in the safety of healthcare. Now, the World Health Organization said evidence shows that when patients are treated as partners in their care, significant gains are made in safety, like we had stated before, and then patient satisfaction and health outcomes. Now, Daju also said the day underscores the importance of patient safety in the healthcare system. And he goes on to say that he was delighted to inform us that the Federal Ministry of Health has just developed the first ever policy and implementation strategy on patient safety and care qualities, which was sent for stakeholders review last week, Thursday and Friday. It says this has been done in line with the resolution of 18 of the 55th World Health Assembly, which called for member states to recognize the burden of patient safety and to set up policies to manage them.
Well, of course, that's a great way to go, and we do hope that this policy will bring about the kind of care, the kind of quality service delivery that we are looking at. It's also stated that it focuses on improving patient and family engagement in healthcare, medication safety, surgical safety, infection prevention and control, safety of all medical procedures, just to mention both a few. It is also the hope that health facilities at all levels will adopt and implement these policies. Now, that's the focus of the conversation there. It is hoped. That means it raises a whole lot of questions now. What are the modalities put in place by the government to ensure that hospitals adhere strictly to these new policies, to these new laws put in place? When you leave it at the hope level, it means a medical facility can choose to or not to implement.
True.
And in that event, that means the policy already is being set up to fail. So beyond the policies, like we had said earlier, it is very critical that the Ministry of Health, the government itself, puts in place modalities to ensure that all the hospitals across board, private, government-owned hospitals, from the primary healthcare providers to the tertiary hospital, all abide by these laws. That's the only way we are going to be able to access the kind of quality the law seeks to promote and bring to Nigerians. We've had situations and instances where people go for surgical operations and they come back and the next thing is they're dead as a result of complications. I've heard stories of doctors forgetting scissors, forgetting scalpels, and other surgical instrument inside a human body. And that's part of negligence. But of course, when these cases happen, nobody gets to seek redress because you don't even have a law, and it's always going back and forth within the law code. And most time, this happens to the average Nigerian who will tell you, I am barely looking for a way to bury, the deceased person. How much can I afford then to go to the law court? And then, of course, when you're contending with somebody who has more money than you, the situation is that, the less privileged or, the average Nigerian will always say, okay, I leave it in the hands of God, to solve it. But I think we should get to a point in Nigeria where we normalize having, government agencies. I know they're trying to change that narrative. Lawyers from the government doing pro bono for the Nigerian people who cannot, afford a lawyer. I know in Senate claims you'll always say when the police is arresting you, tell you you have a right to a lawyer. Mm-hmm. If you cannot afford one will be provided for you. So that alone tells you, okay, maybe if they give me a good lawyer, I can stand a chance, of hacking my case.
Well, you have stated something I have to agree with. I'm agreeing with a lot of things you said today. The truth is, if the government as is already leaving it in the tag hope, it's already scary because it makes people feel like, okay, this is just one of those laws that we're going to pray will work. This is not a law that you have set and set implementations and set forces and set, list of activities and regulations to back up this law in order for it to be fruitful for the people. And like you have said also, there are people who have faced so many things in the hands of some negligent medical workers, health workers and medical practitioners, and they cannot take it up to seek justice for the loss of their friends or family members because of lack of their necessities and also because of lack of providence of lawyers. So I feel like this particular law, as beautiful as it is, as necessary as it is for mankind, it is also impossible that certain things are set in place so that it can actually be brought to fruition. Certain things that, like Francis said, for example, making pro bono lawyers available for people who do not have what it takes to hire a lawyer, people who do not have the finances to hire a lawyer, people who do not have somebody to protect and take care of them. Because it is one thing to actually hire a lawyer and you may be put at risk because some of these people are really influential. I'm talking about these negligent medical practitioners are really influential. So security should also be provided. I don't know how that will be made possible, but I know that it is not impossible.
Well, it is not impossible. Nothing is impossible when there is a political will, when there is a government in place who prioritizes the interests of the people. And if you look at medical facilities and the way patients are, I know that I've had conversations with people who say one of the reasons I don't want to go to the hospital, I prefer, buying over-the-counter drugs or getting somebody to come treat me in the house, is because my rights, my privileges are not being guaranteed. I don't want to go into the hospital and I'm being used as a tutorial material, to teach everybody, without being asked, oh, are you okay with this? Or can we, do this?
Try this.
Yes. Now, these are things that we know, okay? Regardless, scenarios arises that the bigger doctors will need to teach the younger ones, the scenarios, the situations, and how to manage them. And this will need live patients, not every time going to, dead animals or dead beings and all of that. So, but then having the courtesy to let the patient know this is what you are going to do and allow them to also give you consent or understand and prepare themselves mentally and otherwise for that kind of experience is very critical. And I like something that is stated here that the permanent secretary said empowering patients to become integral members of their healthcare team is a crucial avenue to significantly enhance the safety of their care and the healthcare system as a whole. That is very crucial, taking into consideration the patients and their health, because you're talking about individuals, you're talking about the individual health. Whatever you are doing comes down to that individual. And then of course the conversation also comes down to there are situations where people go for medical procedures and then the doctors are negotiating or talking about maybe something they never expected or anticipated within the course of the surgical operation that they just stumble on. Maybe the diagnosis or the test or the scan, did not pinpoint that thing as being part of the reason. But of course, at the, while in the theater, they get to discover, oh, we came in for XYZ, surgical operation, but we've discovered these other ones. And as a result of this, these are the complications. Now, conversations like that also needs to be, shared with, if not the patient, if the patient is unconscious at that point, the family of the patient should also be in the know.
True.
Well, behind that, I think what Nigerians would also want the medical sector or the Minister of Health to do would be to look into questions where medical practitioners do their job and then, as a result of doing their job, they are being attacked. Sometimes I've been in hospitals where the medical practitioners have done the job, but it was just, the person's time to go, and the family will be like, okay, accusing the medical professionals.
Yeah.
Apart from that, also, we are looking at some of the religious practices. There are churches who do not allow blood transfusion, for instance. There are, religious belief who do not allow certain things to happen.
True.
But you're seeing a doctor who knows that these particular patients can live but needs blood transfusion. And for some reason, because of religious practices, a traditional injunction, people just would not give that grant. So Nigerians would also want a law that takes that privilege and prioritizes saving the human life first. So in instances like that, when the doctor sees that a blood transfusion can actually and will actually save that person's life, or will increase the chances of that person's life being saved, we should have a piece of legislation that waives every other practices or religious affiliations or ties to allow for the doctors to do the job of saving lives first before any other thing.
Sure. I actually agree with everything that you've said. You've spoken well. You've spoken like somebody who should be a part of the cabal of people in charge.
Now you're making me blush this morning.
But yes, I totally agree with what you've said. It is necessary that we look into, this beautiful policy that is being set in place. The fact that it's being set in place is actually a huge kudos to the federal government, and of course we thank them for thinking about the patient safety and laying policies in place. But like you have said, and I agree with, that it is necessary for other things to be set in place for this policy to actually be properly utilized for the good of the citizens.
We do hope the federal government and the Minister for Health does the job that is required. But of course, to wrap up our flash news this morning, gas retailers have warned that the price of 12.5 kg cooking gas may hit 18,000 naira by December of 2023. Now, this is if the federal government does not restrict the activities of the terminal owners. While speaking with newsmen, the president of the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, Latumbosun Oladipo, said that the price of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas, has gone astronomically high at terminals as a result of a sudden increment from between 9 to 10 million naira per 20 metric tons to 14 million naira per 20 metric tons. That is a whooping 4 million naira increase.
Yeah.
Of course, this is ridiculous, according to him, in the prices of gas being hiked, and he said it's not going on right now. It's not going to, augur well for the Nigerian society unless the federal government step in to checkmate the activities of the terminal owners. He said the price could reach as high as 18 million per metric ton by December, which means a 12.5 kg could go as high as 18,000 naira.
Yeah, and according to him, terminal owners were hiding under the guise of high foreign exchange to increase price to further increase the suffering of the masses. Now, he insisted that the terminal owners have no justification for increasing prices, as the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Limited still supplied the markets. Now, NNPCL currently takes 59% of the gas produced by NLNG, although NLNG has also increased its price from 6 million naira to 8 million naira. And now, because NLNG has increased price, NNPCL and terminal owners have increased price to 14 million naira. The increase in price that would take effect is not the fault of retailers, of course. It is the fault of NLNG and terminal owners. Even NNPCL is hiding under the guise that they are now privatized to increase prices. As of last week, 1 kg was 800 naira at the terminal, and now it is 1,200 naira and could possibly reach 1,500 naira by December if care is not taken. Now, the ordinary man would not be able to buy gas. How many minimum wage earners can afford gas at this particular moment? Everyone is turning to firewood and charcoal. The surprising thing was that they visited President Tinubu last week and promised to work together with his administration to make life better. But now they have come back and started doing things that we do not understand.
Okay, one thing is visiting the president. Another thing is truly wanting to work with the president in the interest of Nigeria. I know that as far as the foreign exchange is concerned, marketers have always used that as an excuse to hike prices of commodities imported into the country. This has been a consistent process, but of course it raises a lot of questions. What is the Nigerian Consumer Protection Council doing to ensure that people who carry out these illegal activities, these criminal activities of intentionally, deliberately hiking prices of commodities just to make extra gain at the detriment of Nigerians are being dealt with decisively. Because until we get to that point, prices of things is a tradition. It's becoming a tradition in Nigeria that once it's the festivities period, you will always have hiking.
Sure.
In prices of fuel, petrol, diesel, foodstuff joining exactly. So the question is, how long are we going to continue enduring this as Nigerians? And this is coming at a more terrible time.
True.
You're looking at Nigerians trying to get by each day as a result of the subsidy removal. We're looking at situations where the minimum wage of 30,000 naira is not even enough to carry an average Nigerian for 2 to 3, 4, 5 days. If you look at the realities of things on ground, Gary in the market now is sold at, some places to buy a cup of Gary 100 naira, 150 naira. Some places 200 naira in the interior communities. And then you ask, how many cups of Gary can a family buy that will be able to take care of the family?
Sure.
You're talking about a bag of rice going for as high as 47,000 naira for 50 kg to 50,000 naira. How many families can afford, with minimum wage, 47,000, 50,000 naira to buy 50 kg bag of rice? And how long is that 50 kg bag of rice going to last? You're not even talking about the price of other, edibles, oil, pepper, Maggi. And the last time I asked somebody about Maggi in the market or pepper in the market, I'm like, the pepper we used to buy for 50 naira, like 3, 4, 5 months back, is the pepper we are now buying for 200 to 300 naira. And I'm like, okay, so how are people in the villages surviving? How are Nigerians coping? That is a serious question. And Nigerians would expect that, Ahmed Bola Tinubu and the relevant government agency will wade into this matter.
And another thing I have to talk about is, I discovered that we have associations of almost everything in life. We have associations of meat sellers as a particular market, association of pepper sellers, but I also look at those associations like, you also have a role to play. As much as the government has a role to play, these associations, are they solely responsible for their own benefits, or are they responsible for the market being at a good place, for their profit, and also for them to have more customers by selling at fair rates? Because most of the time you go to buy, like you said, stuff like pepper that we plant and harvest in our backyards or in our farms, you go to buy and then you complain of the quantity given for the price you're paying, and they say it's government, and I wonder, is the government responsible for the pepper we now plant in our backyards? So I feel like we all have responsibilities. But talking about this particular story relating to the price of gas, like we said, how many people will now be able to afford cooking gas, let alone talk about the ingredients to cook with the gas? So there's so much to be done, if we're being honest, and I feel like these unnecessary hikes in prices is so unfair to mankind, honestly.
Well, you've raised another very valid concern. Market unions, another conversation that has been had over time. It's like literally the activities of this market union are anti-people. You look at the average woman from the community bringing her basket of pepper, basket of okra, or bag of vegetable. The people stop by the way, purchases at a very low price, or go down to the village, purchase at a low price, bring to the market, and then begin to set price for people to sell. And even the average village woman who refuses to sell at the road point and brings it to the market, because of market unionism, is being given a price that she also must sell at that stage. True. Without giving room for competition. So it's like, I know I've had conversations with people who say in some markets they decide this day, today, Monday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 persons are going to sell Gary. Every other person who sells Gary, stay in your house. Tomorrow, another group of persons will sell. The next day, another group of persons. It becomes a law. So there is absolutely no competition. There is no price variation, because it's been established by somebody who sits and has no interest of putting the people's interest at heart or putting the people's first. So if we have government officials, government agencies being able to wade into the matters and, scrap the activities of market unionism, or to a large extent be able to ensure that this doesn't happen, I recall the last few months when POS operators, planned their own hike in terms of charges that, we are getting to pay for withdrawals that we make. We saw the Nigerian agencies springing up and rising to the challenge, and of course probing and all of that. I know that we've not really seen that much of an increase, except for the fact that since after the cash crunch, crisis that we had to buy naira for naira, and the POS fares, went from 100 to God knows how much people paid across Nigeria.
True.
It seems literally just like most things, when the prices goes up, it is absolutely impossible for it to return to the normal state that it was before then. So you still find those disparity. You go to some POS machines and they're charging you for 5,000, 150, 200, 250, and then you're like, okay, this is the new reality. But then it goes down to conversations we've been asking. While Nigerians will always blame the government for not doing its part, while Nigerians will always say they, point accusing fingers that the people in government are corrupt, we as Nigerians, we are also corrupt. So we should point the remaining four fingers at ourselves, because there is no reason for an average Nigerian to want to exploit the next person. And that goes back to collective responsibility. If we all know that one way or the other, it's like the keke rider who hikes the price of transportation unnecessarily, because according to him, the spare parts in the market are high. Of course, when you're done fixing your keke with the spare part that you've bought, you're going to go to the market to buy. And that market woman you carried and high fare is going to hike the food price for you.
Chain.
So it's going to be a chain of very, very ugly scenario that we need to work on.
That's true, because I feel like it all starts, when the previous administration said change begins with me, they were right, because it all starts with you as a person agreeing that you want to do good. I remember there was a particular day I was trying to take a cab to a particular destination, and I came down and gave the guy his money, the taxi driver his money, and he said, "No, madam, don't worry." And I'm like, "Why?" And he says he does something where the first passenger and the last passenger he carries every day, he gives them a free ride. So it is something that he has set for himself. And I asked him why he does that. He says he knows that he doesn't do very much good, but he just hopes that for those two people that he helps and they say thank you in a day, that it will help him in future. And I looked at him and I said, you know what, somebody else would see you, I would see you next time. Remember that you have done me good. I want to do good to you. So it's a chain, like you have said. We consider ourselves, consider the next person, know that the next person is going through as much as we are. It would help, because the next person would consider the next person, and it will go on and on to relieve most of our struggles. I think we had this conversation before off air, where we spoke about how people treat people differently when it comes to coming to buy things from someone. So you can see somebody who just puts on a t-shirt and joggers and enters the market and prices his pepper for 500. I see somebody else who has like a wig on, makeup, and a pretty dress to go to price that same commodity, and it would not be sold for the same amount the other person. I remember our mothers even telling us when we were younger, don't wear fine clothes when you're going to the market. So there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done, and it honestly starts from within. I
totally agree with you. So much needs to be done, and it starts from within. And the narrative you just given, I mean, not wearing fine clothes to the market. Oh my goodness!
Will tell you.
One of the reasons I don't want to go to the market, I don't go to the market ever. I once had a very funny incident. I was trying to buy ice fish, and then I had just gotten to the point, and the woman sold for the person that was buying the same size. The same size as the ice fish, 500 naira. So the person took the portion he wanted, gave her the money, and left. So the woman lifted her eyes, lifted over her eyes, and then saw me like, I said, "Ma, please put 2 of these for me too." I brought her 1,000 naira. The woman looked at me like, "Hello, sorry, this is 1,000 naira." And I'm like, 1,000 naira.
I'm sure you wore like suit and tie to the market.
I didn't wear any tie. And I'm like, 1,000 naira for it, but I just saw you sell that 500 naira to this young man that just walked away. He said yes. oh girl, look yourself. You and this young man, are you the same?
You see.
And I'm like, what's the difference? I've been seeing you on TV now. I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh
God.
goodness. So because you're seeing me on TV.
We share the same problems. Though.
Oh goodness.
We
And
live
then
in
you're
the
like,
same country.
it's funny how Nigerians react. It's funny how Nigerians, behave sometimes. But I think this goes down to the fact that some people have created a different kind of tradition to make people believe that, okay, because people are in a certain sector, they have a lot more money to throw around. But we forget that even if these people are in a certain sector and have more money to throw around, they also have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah,
The
rich
same-
people, rich problems.
Exactly. So you need to treat everybody equal. There's no need to try and hike prices of things just because you feel the person is in a different sector and has a lot more money to throw around. But to wrap up our flash news this morning, we see that the NLC and the federal government have been going back and forth. On the 1st of September, precisely, the NLC issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government. They were going to embark on an indefinite strike where activities will be shut down across all sectors of the Nigerian economy. Of course, that's as a result of the ending of the fuel subsidy era, as announced by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu in his inaugural speech on May 29. Of course, we have seen nationwide protests. We've seen warning strike, 2 days warning strike, the most recent one that was held by the NLC. Of course, the NLC are demanding that the federal government is able to put in place measures to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians. But as at yesterday, the meeting that took place between the NLC, again ended in deadlock.
Yeah, we saw that, and I'm consistently wondering, does this mean that this week we're going to hear of another warning strike? Because it seems like after every unproductive meeting between the NLC and the federal government, people begin to wonder if there's another warning strike coming up.
Well, the Minister of Labour, Simon Lalong, has said that the Labour should be considerate, should understand with the federal government and try to look at things realistically. But when the minister has said Labour should look at things realistically, you ask the question, what has the government done so far to show that the government is committed? Yes, we know bags of rice have been given, as means of palliative, but how much has this rice, really been able to impact on the lives of Nigerians? How many cups of rice? I saw a comment the other day saying we're being given, spoon scoops of rice as palliative, which cannot even last for a day. So when your palliative cannot last a family for a day, recall the conversation that trailed the announcement by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu for 8,000 naira to families of the poorest of the poor, with an attendant effect that the federal government projected 60 million Nigerians, were going to benefit from it and then you ask, with the present realities of things in the market, with the present economy, with the inflation rate, how much can 8,000 do for an average Nigerian?
Exactly. I mean, you step into the market to get. I want to talk from a place of pain. I stepped into the market one weekend for the regular monthly toiletries shopping. Went to the market, got my provisions for less. I got it for 2,200 that day, and I ran out of it in like 2 weeks. And I asked a friend, okay, you're stopping by the market, help me pick this up. And she calls me and she says, Davina, hi, it's 2,800. Oh, the money you sent is not enough. I said, where? So you're telling me that there's a difference of about 600 naira in less than a month.
Exactly.
So what really was 8,000 naira going to do for one person, talk less of families?
Well, we do hope that in the interest of Nigerians, the federal government is able to come to a ground where Nigerians workers, the people who are not even within the employs of government, and of course people within the organized private sector are well taken care of. The palliative that the NLC is asking for are part of things that should be able to be sustained across Nigeria. But this is where we'll take a pause in our conversations and head out to the news brief desk where Mary Joseph is standing by to take us around latest happening across. When we come back, Rise and Shine will continue. Stay with us.
government, Secretary General, delegates.
Voting for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in counting.
Heads of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
Voting for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. We begin the news brief with a report that the federal government has said that it has developed the National Policy and Implementation Strategy on Patient Safety and Healthcare Quality to improve the safety of all medical procedures and enhance the quality of healthcare delivery. The Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Health, Kacholum Daju, who made this known at a press briefing in commemoration of the World Patient Safety Day, said the policy aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. Away from that, the federal government's meeting with the organized labor on post-subsidy removal palliatives for workers in a race to beat the deadline for the planned commencement of an indefinite strike that will lead to the shutdown of the economy ended in deadlock. Reports say that the party hosted by the Minister of Labour, Simeon Lalong, in Abuja, however, failed to reach a consensus as the Nigerian Labour Congress insisted that the federal government must meet its demands ahead of the 21-day ultimatum issued on February 1st by the Congress. We move now to security, where the Nigerian police force has commenced moves to recover unlicensed firearms from politicians and very important persons across the country. This followed the directive of the Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, who ordered the various state police commands to recover arms in the hands of uncertified bearers. The Police High Command revealed that the committee's mandate would encompass a thorough assessment of current firearms licensing, procedures and regulations to enhance their effectiveness, transparency and accountability. Away from that, senior advocates of Nigeria, Femi Falana and Egbun Oluwaregbeola, have waded into the disputes between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the Senator representing the FCT, Ireti Kingibe. The senior lawyers noted that the FCT Minister, in terms of execution of duties, was not answerable to Kingibe or the National Assembly. Recall that the FCT lawmaker had warned Wike to desist from working without the supervision of the National Assembly, as the FCT minister does not have executive powers, but must operate within the constitutional frameworks of the country's legislative arm. We head straight now to the foreign scene, where China's top diplomat Wang Yi is visiting Russia as it seeks continued support for its war on Ukraine. Russian media saying Wang's trip would also pave the way for President Vladimir Putin's visit to China soon. This is as China's foreign ministry said Wang is in Russia for a 4-day trip for strategic security consultations. Now, reports say after Monday's talks, the Russian foreign ministry said Wang and Lavrov discussed the Ukraine's war and noted that the futility of the attempts to settle the crisis without taking account of the Russians' interest and more particularly its participation. And finally, in sports, 4 Nigerian players will be in action for their respective European teams as they seek to make winning starts to their Champions League group campaign today. Now, the players are AC Milan swinger Samuel Chukwueze, the duo Al Hassan Yusuf and Chidera Ejoke, who both star for Antwerp, and Zadu Sanusi of the FCT Porto. We'll have details of this and many more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's get back to Rise and Shine, where we have Francis and Davina on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, Secretary General, delegates.
Voting for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in counting.
Glad to welcome you back. This is Rise and Shine coming to you live on Spectrum TV. Of course, we'll encourage you always to join the social media community, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. Today on Talking Nigeria, we started off with Governor Pastor Moino's congratulatory message to John Obod, the young man who attempted and said, pending the verification by Guinness World Record, of course, of the longest reading aloud marathon for 145 hours. That was the initial set, but he was able to, as at 10 p.m. yesterday, reached a whole number of 150 hours in the bag. And of course, the governor has described his feat as inspiring and capable of changing the narrative of how our reading culture goes going forward. We move from that to talking about the police information system, where the ECOWAS, the EU, Interpol, and the police ministry in Nigeria collaborating to put in place a system where security agencies will be able to access information across boards, and this has been said to be a game changer and will allow the Nigerian police be able to have readily available information to combat crimes in Nigeria and within the border communities, and of course across ECOWAS member community and member state. We also talked about the federal government's development first national policy on patient safety, which is aimed at ensuring quality health services is delivered to the Nigerian people, especially when you talk about surgical operations, ensuring that doctors, medical professionals do not neglect their responsibilities and get colors in the line of duty, and also ensuring that the patients themselves are being carried along when it comes to the question of their health. Of course, on the cost of living, we talked about the fact that stakeholders have said that federal government needs to wade into the situation. Otherwise, Nigerians might be buying 12.5 kg of gas by December at about 18,000 naira, which of course will further burden the cost of living in Nigeria. We also talked about the fact that fuel subsidy removal has consistently been on the front burner, and the meeting between the NLC and the federal government as of yesterday ended in gridlock as they did not reach a consensus or some level of agreement. We know that the minister has also called on the labor union to be considerate with the government, but then the NLC has consistently said the federal government needs to prioritize, providing sustainable palliative for Nigerians to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. These and many more we've talked about this morning, and of course, right about now we are heading out to Delhi Spotlight, where we will be bringing you up to speed with the major stories across the national dialysis. Stay with us. Of course, on Delhi Spotlight, we're kickstarting this morning with the first paper talking about Punch newspaper. On the front page of Punch this morning, the kicker that says federal government NLC meeting deadlocked. Workers insist on demands. Of course, we also see government workers must agree on concrete resolutions within remaining days of ultimatum NLC. We also see, as part of the Rider Day, Minister appeals to labor unions to embrace dialogue, shun strike as deadline ends on Friday. That story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Still on the front page of Punch, we see Nigeria servicing 108 World Bank loans worth $14 billion. That's according to a report. That's on page 19. We also see oil companies, agencies, or federal government $9.8 billion revenue. That's according to the NEITI. That's on page 19. No easy solution to Nigeria's economic problems, says U.S. That story is on page 13 of the Punch newspaper. Still on the front page of Punch, Obasanjo insists on stand-up order to monarchs. That's on page 7. Tension as 8 killed in Ogun community called clashes. That's on page 4 and 5. And drama as Obaseki locks out embattled deputy from government house. That's on page 18. Interesting trace of the drama between Obaseki and his deputy there. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, moving to the Daily Times, we have moved to impeach Senate President Akpabio rumbles on. And right for that story, Northern senators riled by inability to check Tinubu's perceived Yorubanization of economy, and also the untold role of Northern big business owners and disco owners angry with him over failed 40% tariff hike plan. We also have on the Daily Times 20 fear dead as cultist clash resurges in Sagamu, curfew imposed. We have that story on page 2. I stand by my action on royal fathers. We have that story on page 2 as well from Obasanjo right there. Tinubu appoints 18 aides in vice president's office. We have that story on page 4, and those are some of the stories making the cover page of the Daily Times newspaper.
Well, our next stop this morning is the front page of the Nation newspaper. And on the front page of the Nation, the kicker there says Atiku Obi appeals raise concern over Supreme Court cases. Atiku appeals raise concerns over Supreme Court cases. Panel of 7 will deplete number of justice to 4. That is on page number 7 of the Nation newspaper. Still on the front page of the Nation, police kill 8, arrest 9 in Sagamu cold clashes. That's on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. We see also on the front page of the Nation, page 5 to be precise, FIRS recovers 14 trillion naira tax liabilities from NNPCL. Still on the front page of the Nation, Obasanjo justifies public rebuke of traditional rulers. That's on page 6. Petrol importers, power firms behind anti-Akpabio plot. That's on page 5. 5 senators, 26 reps sacked by tribunal. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Still on the front page of the Nation, we see Shaibu's drama at government house deepens row with Obaseki. That story is on page 20. And then to wrap up the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper, we also see Tinubu Ramaphosa in investment talks at UNGA. Tinubu Ramaphosa, that's talking about South African president, in investment talks at UNGA. That story is on page 4. And those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
And we're moving now to Nigerian Tribune, where based on the strike, NLC meets federal government, says ultimatum subsists. And on the right of that story, we have demands concrete solution to palliatives wage award NURTW crisis. And also that whenever we are invited, we will be there. We will produce resolutions that will enhance better benefit working condition of workers. That, of course, from along page 8. We have another story, how we stabbed and shot Senator Adeola's aide 3 times, gotten from the suspects, at page 25 of the Nigerian Tribune. It says, U.S. military seeks help to find missing $80 million F-35 fighter jet, page 26. We have another story of the Nigerian Tribune. Nominations open for 2023 Obafemi Awolowo Leadership Prize at page 2. And of course we have from Mohbad's death, police set up special investigation team. That is on page 28. For the last story on the cover page of the Nigerian Tribune, Tinubu appoints Baba Ahmed and 17 other aides for Shatima. This particularly is on page 15. These are some of the stories that made it to the cover page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
Well, our last up this morning is the Daily Trust newspaper. The kicker there says NNPCL 12